Now what we do for a break, what every railway modeller does for his break, go and make yourself a cup of tea. Perfect. I've left mine to dry, made a cup of tea. Oh, I'm back to modelling. Right, I'm going to put my gloves back on. Left the varnish on there. Now once we've done the varnish, we give it several coats, we'll leave it to dry for plenty of time. But I usually leave it for a few hours. Okay, that's one glove. And two gloves. Right, we're going to get straight into this, right? Next colour, I'm going to use a light rust. I'm not going to use a red rust, I'm going to use an orange rust. Get the locomotive ready. Now what I'm going to look for is places, detail that's going to gather rust and where it's going to start to come down. So I'm just going to get some of this. And I only want a very small amount on this brush. And I'm going to look for places such as grills. I want it to drag down. I'm going to put a little bit in some of these grills, and steel nameplate's going to be rusty, so I'm going to get rid of the rest of the dust off there and just push away any excess. Carry on with highlighting some of these grills with a rust and dragging it down from them. Also going to look for other places such as windows where it may drag down. I'm going to go for a smaller brush now, just to help me with this. Then I'm going to do some very light dabbings around the chassis, just to highlight the detail. Just going to put some rust underneath the nameplate and drag it down. Then I'm just going to get a softer brush. It does help to keep very soft brushes for doing this sort of stuff. Try to stay away from the stiff ones, and I'm just going to lightly coat the fuel tanks and the batteries with this rust. Now if you feel some of the rust has gone too much orange, it can easily be corrected wherever it's gone. Easily be corrected by brushing off what you can, and applying a very thin layer of the muddier colour will help to disguise it, as well as tone it down a little. Now remember, the weathering's never finished until you're happy, so feel free to sit there and play with different colours and try to get the different effects that you want. Okay, now once you're happy with that, just turn around the locomotive and do the other side. Okay, so now we've done with the general applying of the rust powder. As you can see, I've done it on the sides, applied it to both sides, the chassis and the ends. Now what I'm looking for are patches of rust where the metalwork has rusted quite badly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a small piece of card. This is photographic paper, this that I'm using, and I'm going to mix together rail match brake dust and rail match sleeper grime. There we go. I'm going to do mostly sleeper grime with a small amount brush of brake dust, and that will give us a slightly rusty colour. Remember to shake your pots well before you start to use them. And that'll give us a good muddy, rusty sort of colour there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a very small brush here and just apply that to the smaller detail. Now you may want to vary your colour a little more. Choose a patch of sleeper grime on its own just there. Okay, so we've done the rust. Here it is. I've also applied rust to such as hinges and whatnot. I've just dabbed a bit of this powder around the hinges, bolts, detail around the roof, and rubbed it into the grille. I've then used the airbrush and sealed it. I've also done different bits of hinges and dragged it down the side with my smallest brush, which is 5/4/0. And that will be available at your local model store too. That's also useful for doing stuff like the hinges, dragging the powder down. I've also gone around the nose, bits of rust collecting around stuff such as the light boxes. All these different bits of detail all really count. I've gone around places such as window frames, steps, and other various detail, and give them slight bit of rust around the roof horns. After all that was done, I'll give it another coat of varnish around the spray booth. Now we're going to turn to what I think is about the last of this, which is the roof. So I'm going to take the brush and use the dark colour that we began with, and I'm just going to gently dab it around the roof. Where I'm going to, as before, just sweep from the top to the side of the roof. So now I've gone over that, I'm just going to take this over to the airbrush, and I'm going to give that one more coat of varnish over the top. Okay, we're now on to our final stages of this. Now what I'm using here is a Tamiya weathering kit. Now these are available in the little, they're like makeup cases with the brushes, or they're also available as weathering sticks. Now these are available at your local model shop. I paid about $4.99 for each of these packs, and about $2.75 for these. Now I don't really like these, they're not that good to use the pens, but I like these little pallets because what you can do, get a scalpel or a pair of scissors, just scrape a little bit away of the palette. What I'm using here is the B, because they all come in letters as A, B, C and whatnot. I've got pack B here and I'm using soot. Now what I'm doing here is I've just got a small brush here, I'm just getting some of this and I'm going across where the exhausts are, where the fumes will be left, and brushing it on, much in the same way that the powder is, but I'm pressing down a lot more of this just to leave more soot. And with the 37s, they're more of a streak. If you look, where we've got our 2 exhaust ports here, you just streak it from about here down to here, and give yourself a good thick coat. You may prefer to use a sponge as well at some points, just to get a much more pressed down feel. Just to really cover it better. Okay, now once that's done, I'm going to bring back our airbrush and just give that one more coat of varnish over there. And there we have it. Now the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a cocktail stick. I'm going to take the end, I'm just going to look where the windscreen wipers are. Just going to slowly scrape away through the muck an area of windscreen wipers have clean. And there we go. I'm just going to repeat that on the 2 side windows on each nose. And if you want to, you can just rub away where the driver might have just walked by and wiped his hand away to wipe some of the muck. I think there's a driver in that window there, so I'm not going to be quite as neat as this, because it's just where he's got a cloth out of the cab and just wiped it off. Yeah, that's the right window, it's right behind there. And there we have it! A mucky locomotive, easily done with weathering powders and an airbrush. Thank you very much for watching.